Hi everyone, it's B. Today I'm here to talk to you about retro games, as usual, but this time I'm specifically talking about gaming consoles targeted towards young girls. The game consoles I'll be covering today are the Casio Loopy, a long-forgotten Japan-exclusive console from 1995, and the Dream Life games, including the original Dream Life created by Hasbro in 2005, and its successor, the Dream Life Superstar from 2007. Now I know this may come as a surprise, but girls can be gamers. Shocking, I know. I'll give you a moment to collect yourself. Luckily, this fact was not at all too surprising to the many major corporations that were looking to cash in on this specific market by making games targeted specifically towards girls. The first of which to do this with a dedicated console just for girls was Casio in 1995 with the creation of the Casio Loopy. The Casio Loopy was only ever released in Japan, and it was a 32-bit, light purple console with probably the cutest logo I've ever seen. For reference, this console came out just 1 year after other major 32-bit consoles such as the Sega Saturn and the PlayStation 1, and 1 year before the release of Nintendo 64, so needless to say, it was up against some pretty serious competition and basically never even stood a chance. Now it's clear that this console never really made too large of an impact on the gaming industry since it's relatively unknown outside of Japan, and though I can't speak for those who do live in Japan, I'm certain that the Casio Loopy doesn't even hold a candle to the legacy of consoles like the PlayStation. However, the Casio Loopy had a few things going for it that no other console at the time did. For one, the Casio Loopy was marketed exclusively to young girls, something which other consoles at the time certainly weren't. Ads for the PlayStation 1 at the time were definitely marketing the console as being more for serious gamers, as was the Sega Saturn, which meant that the Casio Loopy was covering a market that wasn't yet taken by a different, more popular console. Hooray for the Casio Loopy! The Casio Loopy also had something else, something even better that no other console, even to this very day, please don't fact check that, has ever provided. A sticker maker! That's right! The Casio Loopy had a built-in printer which could create stickers from in-game screenshots, and if you wanted, you could even purchase an add-on called Magical Shop which would allow you to take pictures from either a VCR or DVD player, add text, and print those out as stickers too. How freaking cool is that? I would have killed for one of these as a kid. And you know what? I would kill for one right now if we're being honest here. That is a joke. I wouldn't kill anyone ever. It's a metaphor! I promise. As far as games go, the Loopy had a particularly small library with only 10 games. To save myself the embarrassment of trying and failing to pronounce some of these games, I'm just going to put them on the screen while I'm talking. The games, as the console being targeted towards young girls implied, were generally pretty girly, cute, and kid-friendly. There's a game where you adopt a pet dog, several dress-up games, drawing games, a music maker, and other similar games to those. Overall, the Casio Loopy was one of, if not the first video game consoles to ever be exclusively marketed towards young girls, and though it didn't exist outside of Japan, I believe that its existence may have inspired other girl-centric games that would be created in later years, which is a great segue into my next topic, the Dream Life. The Dream Life was created by Hasbro, the people who make My Little Ponies and Furbies, in 2005 and was marketed towards young girls. However, instead of targeting the elementary school girl age range like the Casio Loopy did, the Dream Life was aimed more at tween girls. Basically, if they were old enough to want to read Tiger Beat magazines, they were probably old enough to also want a Dream Life. I'm saying this because I was in the age range that the Dream Life was targeted toward at the time that it came out, and I did in fact read Tiger Beat magazines and want a Dream Life super bad. There's definitely some sort of correlation there. The Dream Life console itself was essentially a TV plug-and-play game, or a dedicated console as my BFF Wikipedia likes to call it. The original Dream Life was this little blue and green circle that you plugged into your TV, and rather than having a corded controller, it had a little wireless TV remote type controller that nested inside of the console itself, which made it feel very high-tech for the time. After you plugged in the console, the premise of the game was simple. Make a girl, dress her up, do her hair, make her cool and fun and popular, date cute boys, make friends, and go to the mall. Dream Life truly was the best name for it. What more could a girl want? The game also allowed you to do chores. Ew, boring, I know, why would they put that in the game? I'll tell you, they put it in the game because by doing chores, you could earn money to buy decorations for your bedroom or new clothes. The end goal of the game, if you could even really say that it has one, was to earn as many points as you possibly could by making friends, being super fashionable, and having a great lifestyle. After 3 seasons go by, your points are tallied up and you start all over again. I'm not entirely sure how well these consoles sold at the time, but just speaking from personal experience, every girl I knew wanted one and every girl I knew who did have one was automatically cooler because of it. Clearly, the original Dream Life must have sold well enough because 2 years later it would have a sequel, the Dream Life Superstar. Dream Life Superstar, which I have actually, not to flex or anything, was a pink and orange oval which held a weird egg-shaped TV remote type controller and was, like the original Dream Life, a TV plug-and-play console. The point of this game, though extremely similar to the original, was to become famous! Dream Life Superstar gave you the option to shoot for the stars, literally, by aspiring to become an actress, singer, writer, TV star, fashion designer, or athlete. And you only have 1 summer to make it happen. To become famous, you can do a number of things, all of which are basically exactly the same as you do in the first Dream Life. You make friends, go to the mall, date cute boys, buy cute clothes, you know, the usual. The major difference between Superstar and the original is that you can complete Superstar activities like signing autographs, talking to fans, performing concerts, and mingling with the rich and famous. The Dream Life consoles are something that are extremely nostalgic to me, and I'm sure they're extremely nostalgic to basically any girl who grew up in the early 2000s. I've always been really fascinated by tech that was specifically targeted towards girls, whether it be the literal girl tech brand of toys that was super popular in the early 2000s, Pixel Chicks, Dream Life consoles, or even a console that I might never even get my hands on, even if I want to super bad, like the Casio Loopy. I think the reason that I'm so fascinated by these types of toys and consoles is because, like many things, tech is a field that both professionally and recreationally is dominated by men. Because of this, things like video games and being interested in tech always felt really intimidating. Products like the Casio Loopy, Dream Life, Girl Tech, Barbie software for girls, which I might make a whole video about just on its own someday, all of those things made it a little bit less intimidating and kind of helped ease girls and women into these kinds of communities in a way that felt a little bit more comfortable. Though I'm not entirely sure if young girls still experience this kind of intimidation by being interested in stereotypical guy things, I'm glad that these kinds of games existed at the time that they did because I think that the fantastic sales from these kinds of items made it apparent to companies and corporations that girls and women do like tech and gaming and really send the message that girls and women should be included in gaming and tech spaces in the future. I know just from my own experience of growing up as a young girl in the early 2000s that finding a space to express my interest in video games was exceptionally difficult. It's definitely more well accepted now than it was back then, but when I was a kid, it was like pulling teeth to find people to talk about games like Resident Evil with because spaces where you could talk about those things felt very much like a boys' club. No girls allowed because we had cooties or were lying about liking video games to impress them or something. Who knows? It was tough, I'm not gonna lie, so I'm definitely glad that consoles like these and other girl-centric games and tech were created back in the day to kind of carve out a space for girls in the gaming and tech communities where girls could freely express their interests without the intimidation of being in an extremely male-dominated space. I also think consoles like these provide a good gateway, because you go from liking and showing a lot of interest in playing video games in general that are kind of curated specifically for you, and that kind of opens the door to maybe you go out and you buy some Barbie software for girls games for your PS1, or like the Bratz series of games for your PS2. And then now that you have a PS1 or a PS2 in your presence, you can try other games that maybe are more outside of your wheelhouse. I think it's just a good way to ease yourself into gaming in a way that feels comfortable, if that makes sense. That's actually part of why I make these videos, to kind of challenge the idea that the only people who care about retro games and tech, or games and tech in general, are guys. Because that's just not true, and there is space for girls and women in these communities. I know the times have changed a lot since I was a young girl, and it's no big secret that nerd culture, for lack of a better term, can be very gatekeepy and kind of like a boys' club, so all I can really hope is that young girls today don't feel the same intimidation in getting involved in video games and their surrounding communities the same way that I did. And with that, we have reached the end of today's video. Let me know down in the comments if you've ever had one of these consoles when you were a kid, or if you too were a big fan of girly tech the same way I was. Before I go, I just wanted to thank you all for your patience lately. I know I've been uploading super infrequently the past few months due to some personal reasons, but I appreciate all of you for hanging around and sticking with me through this. And as always, thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a good day or night or whatever time it is wherever you are.